Well, good morning and a huge welcome to Radley. You'll realise that we can't fit the whole year group into the theatres. That's why we split you into two groups. So obviously you've had time in social, and I hope that's gone well already this morning. But the most important thing I can say this morning as Warden is welcome. Welcome to you, and I'd say welcome to boys. I also say welcome to parents and to families as well. It's really important for us to say at the outset of this journey. I know for some of you it isn't new, some of you are experienced Radley parents, but for the majority of you it is new, and it's really important to me to say that we welcome not only boys but the whole family as well. You are part of the Radley College community. You may not know, but you're now part of the Radleyan Society. It's really important that we are together as a group, and several of the things that I say this morning will emphasise that theme of community. The journey that you've had to get to this point has been very, very different. Some of you have come from just a few hundred yards away. Some of you have come from thousands of miles away. Some of you, actually, it's a relatively recent decision to think about Radley. I checked this morning, for some of you it's not a recent decision. There's one boy here who was registered for Radley College on the 11th of September 2010. So by my calculation, that's a very early birthday in that year, and a very early decision, a very good decision, a very early decision by the parents, probably the father, had nothing better to do, to actually go on the phone and register the son. So thank you. Whatever your journey to get to here today, the next thing to say, not just welcome, but thank you. Thank you for choosing Radley. Thank you to the boys. I'm sure you had some part to play as you looked around various schools and made a decision to which was the right one for you. But thank you particularly to parents for trusting Radley College with the education of your son. That excites us every year. In some ways, the teaching profession is repetitive. What happened last year happens this year. It's the same thing. But it's not the same thing, because every year it's a new set of boys, a new set of parents, a new set of relationships. We're excited by that, and we want to say thank you to both the boys and parents for choosing Radley. But just to stress, the reason why we've heard from those three this morning is particularly to emphasise, and it came through in what they said, the way in which the three elements link together. It is no such thing as separated academic or separated co-curricular or separated pastoral. Those three things really work together. And I'll give you a visual symbol of that. So Mr. Porter, new deputy academic last September, it came to the steeplechase, which is the event at the end of the Michaelmas term, which all boys look forward to, a cross-country run in the cold. And please, boys, do not listen to any other boy that tells you don't enjoy the cross-country. The steeplechase is one of the highlights of the year. Now, Mr. Crump, deputy co-curricular, new to the job. Mr. Porter, deputy academic, new to the job. They both decided to run the steeplechase. Something that the Warden will never do. They decided to run the steeplechase, and I thought it a wonderful, sort of like romantic visual moment. They decided to run it in such a way, despite being competitive men, that they would finish the line together to demonstrate the unity of the academic and the pastoral side of the college. Mr. James has arrived as Deputy Head Pastoral, so I'm giving him a challenge today to emphasise the visual symbolism that he will also run the steeplechase, and the three Deputy Heads will cross the line together. We will see whether his training is up to it. But it's a hugely important point for me to say that those three things are always the case. The pastoral does not separate from the academic and the co-curricular. The three of them go together. Now, I have some advice this morning to parents, and I have advice this morning to boys. And I'm conscious that there's a huge amount of information for you to take on and for you to remember. So in order to help you, I would just make a slight suggestion that I say to the boys, why don't you listen really carefully to what I say to the parents, and then you can test them in that first phone call, which you will make. You will remember to make that phone call to your parents. And you can then test them whether they were listening to what the Warden said on day one. And then likewise, I say to the parents, why don't you listen very carefully to what I say to the boys, so that you can test the boys on whether they were listening to the Warden. And then we will have reinforced learning, something we believe in at Radley College. So just some words of advice I made to the parents to start with. And I don't apologise, well I do in a sense, but I don't really apologise, that some of it will sound a little bit punchy. But I want to say just some important things, I think, at the outset of our journey together. And we emphasise that togetherness. We emphasise the fact that actually there is the college, there is the boy, there is the parent. And you may have heard me say before in different contexts that that triangle, the relationships going in each direction in that triangle, need to be as strong and as stable as possible. And that is a core thing. We work on this together. So as we start on that, can I just give you three pieces of advice? Firstly, please trust us. Now, in one sense, of course, as I say, welcome to you this morning and thank you. I'm already acknowledging the fact that you have chosen to trust us, and we are incredibly grateful for that. We know that you will have had the choice of many schools, many types of schools, many names of schools. In choosing Radley, you have chosen to put your trust in us to educate your sons, and we do not take that lightly. In fact, we delight in it. As a college, as I said earlier, the idea that the school year repeats itself in some ways. But it is always new, and that's what we enjoy so much about it. That as we start a new year, we start that journey with you and with your sons. So you've already chosen to trust us. But please, as the process goes on, trust us. There will be moments, there may be moments in the next few weeks, but there will certainly be moments in the whole 5 years where there is a wobble of some nature. And you will worry. Because you should, in one sense, as parents. That's part of the process of parenting. And at those moments, I would just say, remember, please trust us. I hope it's not arrogant for us to say, for me to say today, that we are expert at what we do. Now, that's not to say we get everything right. Of course we don't. And we welcome you to challenge things. And we obviously have a mindset where we want to change things and make things better all the time. It's a mantra of Radley. But we are experts at what we do. I count it a great privilege, the privilege, of my career to lead an exceptionally dedicated staff, and it was clear from what was said by Mr. Crump earlier, that's not just the academic dons, but it's the pastoral teams, the PHMs, it's the cleaners, it's the ground staff, it's the health centre, whatever it might be. All the staff at Radley College are part of that. So we are expert at what we do. We think carefully all the time about how best to provide an education for boys. So please trust us. The second is please support us. And in some ways, it obviously leads on from the word trust. But I say support with two things in mind. Firstly, please support us in person by supporting us at events, supporting us at matches, supporting us at concerts, supporting us at plays, supporting us in whatever way you can. For some of you, that's much easier than others. Some of you have travelled a very long way to be here today, and it will be not as easy for you to be at Radley. I hope that you will feel fully connected by the wonderful work that our video unit does in making sure that actually what's happening at Radley is alive and vibrantly alive on the website in a dynamic way. But please, if you can, do support us, do come. Now, there will be moments where your sons say to you something along the lines of, oh, please don't come, because no other parent will come, it'll be a bit lame. Or something along those lines. They may develop that particular tone of voice. Obviously, you will hope not. But they may develop that tone of voice at some point over the next 2 years. When they say that, they really don't mean it. And they actually quietly like the fact that parents come and watch. Although they might not acknowledge that fact, and they might try and persuade you otherwise, they genuinely want you to be here to take an interest and support them in what they do at Radley. So I mean support in that sense. But secondly, I mean support by recognising that it's not easy to run a college balancing two things. Balancing the needs of the individual and balancing the collective. There will be moments where we make decisions. It might be the selection for a sports team. It might be the way we set a boy academically. It might be about term dates. There will be moments where we make decisions that you don't think quite right. And as I say, it is your prerogative to come back to us and suggest how we can do things better. But there will be moments where I would ask you to support us and recognise that even if you disagree with that decision or think it could have been done differently, it nevertheless was done with the best interests of the collective college in mind. And you will recognise, I'm sure, that in order to run a successful community of this size, there sometimes has to be a balancing act between the individual and the collective needs. And the third word I would ask you to remember is to communicate with us. You may or may not know the story of the couple who late one evening developed a row over something fairly pointless, and I'm sure you can't recognise this story in your own experiences. But husband and wife, but it got sort of serious enough that they stopped talking to each other. And the evening went on, and it became more embedded that neither of them would give in, and speak. And it came to bed time. But it was so unfortunate because the woman, the wife, had to get up the following morning to go catch a plane to go off on some business trip abroad. And she wasn't very good at waking up. So she, even when the alarm was set, so she would need to remind her husband to get her up at 4 in the morning. But she couldn't possibly say that because that would be to lose the argument. So as her husband was cleaning his teeth, she had a bright idea. And she wrote a note saying, "Darling, please wake me up at 4 a.m. and put it on his pillow turned over and went to sleep. She woke up. She looked at the clock. It was 8 a.m. Absolutely livid that she'd missed the plane and that would cause her problems in her business, she turned to her husband to shout at him, only to discover that he had written a note and put it on her pillow and said, "Darling, it's 4 a.m, please get up." I hope we can have effective communication between us over the next 5 years. It's really important to say this. There will be moments at which you are unsure about whether to communicate something that's happened outside school or a concern about something your son has said that's happened inside school with us. And when you have that cusp call about whether to communicate with us or not, can I encourage you to lean towards the side of communication? So often, when a pastoral concern arises with a boy, where we have got some concerns about various things that might be happening, it is actually something that's happened outside school that we are not aware of, that had we been aware of, would have made the situation much easier to handle. So I know sometimes that's difficult, but please, I would encourage you this morning, as you start out on 5 years with us, communicate with us. Now, I should stress, because there are some tutors in the room, don't over-communicate with us. And just perhaps remember that every email you send that we have to deal with, and every phone call that you make that we have to deal with, that is minutes taken away from spending time with your sons, which is what you want us to do. So don't over-communicate. But at the same time, please remember what I say about communication. It's crucially important, perhaps particularly in those middle years where some of your sons will develop the habit of not communicating at all with you, or possibly not with us either. It may not happen, but it probably will. It is at those moments particularly where communicating with us is crucially important. Of course, it's a 5-year process. And one of the things we like to do on this occasion is introduce you to a sort of relatively finished product 4 years into the 5. I talked about visual symbolism of deputy heads crossing the lines of steeplechase. I hope you noticed the visual symbolism of having Will at the centre of the 5 speakers this morning. I partly did that to embarrass him. He didn't want to sit in the middle. But I partly do that generally as a visible symbol. Everything we do is about the boys. The boys are at the centre of everything we do. It's my privilege to introduce you to the boys particularly, your senior prefect for this year, Will Pillar from F Social.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, an incredibly warm welcome to all the boys. As Mr. Moll said, my name is Will, and I'm the senior prefect for this year, and I'm very happy to be one of the first to welcome you all here and say that we're incredibly excited to see you together. As I said in my letter that I sent to you over the holidays, I'm sure many of you are incredibly nervous, and that is completely normal and expected, and I can say that from experience. But I hope that among those nerves, there's a large amount of excitement. You're all about to embark on the next 5 years of your lives at one of the most respected, supportive and beautiful schools in the world. You will meet other like-minded boys who will soon turn into brothers and make precious, lifelong memories with them. There will no doubt be challenging times in the next couple of weeks and months, and I want you to be aware of that and ready to rally around one another. If anything is on your mind, whether that's from the first week of shells to the last week of 6-2s, there are countless people to help you here, from your friends, mentors, tutors and form masters. Before you crack on with your day, which I'm sure you're very keen to do, I'd like to leave you with 3 pieces of advice to just think about. That first piece of advice is that you should look to leave your mark on the Radley community. Community is a massive part here at Radley, and you'll soon get a sense of that, whether that's singing in chapel or tucking into snacks at Cocoa. Everyone's part of the community. Dons, groundsmen, catering staff, learning assistants, and countless others. It's basically one massive team, and while the main role of that team is to provide support and care for you, the boys, so you can flourish into the young men you want to be, there is also a duty to give back, to make Radley a finer school by the time you leave in 5 years. There are already many weird and wonderful traditions here, whether that's burger night on a Wednesday evening, or a freezing cold cross-country run at the end of every Christmas term. Obviously some traditions are better than others. But I also encourage you to start your own, create a new society, organise a new competition. Don't just be a taker of all Radley has to offer, but also contribute to the school. You as a year group have far more power to shape the culture of the school than you might think. It will take time, but don't be surprised if you have a significant impact on the people around you. Radley has a way of doing that. The second piece of advice I'd like to give you is that you should work hard at getting to know new people. Many of you here will already know a couple of boys in the year group, and while it may be easiest to hang out with them and chat to them, you should make an effort as soon as possible to get to know others. The friends I've made over the last 4 years have made them the happiest of my life by an absolute country mile. Some of my best memories are just chatting in rooms in the evening about anything and everything. I've laughed and cried with my friends, and will definitely continue to look to them after I leave Radley. I imagine the Warden will hear this story multiple times this year, but I think it's a beautiful example of what friendship really means here at Radley. It's actually about one of the Radley housemasters, so I'll leave it to you to try and work out who that is. My parents are touring around a Radley boarding house, and as they went down the corridor, the housemaster pointed out the picture on the wall. He pointed out himself in the picture, and then his best mate. Turns out his best mate was then his best man at his wedding, and is now working alongside him, still best of friends, at Radley. And that is quintessential Radley to me. Friends who genuinely do stay with you for life. It will take time, but don't be surprised if you find your best friends over the next 5 years. Radley has a way of doing that. Finally, and most importantly, the last piece of advice I can give to you is that you should say yes to as many opportunities as you can. I'm quite frankly jealous standing before you, 4 out of my 5 years already done. You have all 5 left, in which to do almost anything you could want to do. I'm ashamed to say that I feel like I did miss special opportunities in the early years at Radley. Yes, I played hard, I worked hard, but I didn't do anything to push myself truly outside my comfort zone until only last year. Do not make that mistake. It will be daunting to try new things, whether that's being in a play or entering an essay competition, but the opportunity to grow and the sense of achievement you will feel from that far outweighs that fear of stepping outside of that comfort zone. We've had boys debating on the floor of the House of Representatives in DC, or entering and competing in international robotics competitions in Texas, and multiple other amazing things like that. And I can tell you for a fact, those sort of opportunities don't often arise in life. They're the things that you'll encounter at a place like Radley. So I plead, don't let them pass you by. Time will fly by while you're at Radley, and you'll soon be in my position wondering where all the time went. Whoever you are, I'm sure there are things here that you already love. But I hope that by the attitude of saying yes, you'd find multiple more joys and interests than the ones you already have. It will take time, but don't be surprised if you discover multiple new passions and loves. Radley is a way of doing that. So as I wrap up, there's nothing more to say than enjoy that nervous excitement you're all feeling. The next 5 years will shape you into the young men you want to be. Enjoy getting to know one another and keep open-minded. I wish you the best of luck in the coming few weeks and months, and look forward to getting to know you and watch you flourish over this next year. It will take time, but don't be surprised if you have the best 5 years of your life. Radley has a way of doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. And I think it is hugely important to hear from the senior prefect. Obviously, there's lots of boys that will help you. I hope that every 6'2" boy will show leadership in different ways in helping the boys as they settle in. But obviously, the key part of that goes with the pups, as we call the heads of social, and the 4 senior pups. Nick Squire here on the front row, second prefect. There's a head academic prefect, head co-career prefect, as well as the 11 heads of social. And boys, genuinely, as has been said several times today, do see senior boys as people that can help, give advice, or in terms of what to do. Will talked about not getting out of his comfort zone before last year. I think he's probably referring to the fact that having not done much acting, he was in the Haddon Cup, because everyone's in the Haddon Cup, having not done much acting, he stepped forward to play a part in the 6-1 play last year. And as you can see, the sort of fine physique that he has, he played very well, an imperious British officer in a play. Now, when he came to be interviewed for senior prefect, we were slightly sceptical about the fact that he had stepped forward to be in that play, because we felt it was just his way of pushing himself to the front and making sure that we noticed him just a few weeks before the senior prefect interviews happened. Obviously, it worked. But can I encourage you to be involved in as many things as he's encouraged you to, as Mr. Crump's encouraged you to in your time. Now, we're nearly done this morning after I've just said a few words to the boys. will be heading off to a chapel service. Your time at Radley will finish with a very moving service. Boys always find it a particularly important moment, the leaving service at Gordy in the 6-2s. But it starts also formally with a chapel service in a few moments' time. But I said I wanted to say some words to the boys as well, and I've just got 4 words for you to think about. Just before I say that, can I just reiterate a couple of points that have been made already? One is you will feel nervous. And just remember that people have different ways of expressing nerves. You'll think, some of you, that other boys seem immensely confident. But actually that's just their way of hiding the nerves that they have. You are all slightly nervous this morning. Worrying is fine. Don't worry too much, because there are a huge array of people here to help you in every way that they can. And the second, just introductory point, is just realise these next few weeks matter in terms of first impressions. What sort of young man do you want other people to think you are? And a lot of that will be dictated by how you behave in the next few days. So are you the sort of young man that actually are modest rather than arrogant? Will look out for other people, something I'm about to talk about a lot. So just remember, first impressions count, boys, in these first few days and weeks. But 4 words for you to remember, if you will. The first, I want you to be curious. I want you to be the sort of young men who are interested in new things. That might be new things on the academic front. It might be reading a new book. It might be interested in a subject you haven't done before. It might be going that extra mile, but maybe asking that extra question. It might be trying something outside the classroom you haven't tried before. It might just simply be wanting to work out how to be better at something you're already reasonably good at. Are you the sort of young man that will just sort of sit back and be complacent and just sit there as you are? Or are you going to be curious and want to find out new things and do new things in new ways? The second word is ambition. We want you to be ambitious. We're unashamed of the fact that we want you, and we are as a college, ambitious. We want you to be ambitious. What do we mean by that? I don't just mean that you set your individual goal. Some of you already got that. Some of you already say, what I want out of Radley College is straight 9s at GCSE and a place at the top university. Others will say, no, my fix is to get a place in the first day. Other people will say, I want to go and play music at a high level and get a place at a conservatoire. Others might be that young man that ends up on the boards at Stratford that Mr. Crump talked about. You might have very specific individual goals that you're ambitious towards already. But when I talk about ambition in everything you do. So if history is a subject you struggle with, make sure that every history prep is just that little bit better than the previous one, that you listen to the advice you get, that you actually work to improve, even if that improvement is painful, and even if that improvement doesn't seem to reap rewards quickly. That's what we really mean by ambition. Ambition is to get better at everything that you do. Work out how to get better at everything you do. Seek the help to support you to get better at everything that you do. And we take greater pride, genuinely, as staff, we take greater pride in the boy that makes the progress to a good level than the star who just becomes a star, because that stardom was always guaranteed. So please be ambitious. The third word is responsibility, and this perhaps is a little bit of a change for you, because probably up till now, depending a little bit on the schooling that you've had, but probably up till now, there has been a sense in which others have done things for you. And of course that continues at Radley. We have a huge number of people who will support you in everything that you do. And some of you will find it more difficult than others to move along that responsibility ladder. But we're working towards, in 5 years' time, you being young men ready to face the world beyond, whatever that world will bring. We need you to develop responsibility for yourselves. We will support you in that, we will help you in that. It's a process. But you need now to realise that's partly your job. Your job to take responsibility for yourselves, but also your responsibility to take responsibility for others. One of the wonderful things about this place is the way in which boys support each other. Will talked about laughing and crying with his friends. That is absolutely true. And we want you to be the sort of young man who makes sure that the lives of the people around you are happy and fulfilling. That you will support each other in that. Take responsibility for yourselves, take responsibility for each other. And the fourth and final one is just simply endeavour. Work hard. You've heard that already. Some of you have had it easy to this point. Some of you are fortunate enough to be great academics who've never had to try really hard to get top marks. Some of you are lucky enough to be fantastic musicians who've always been better than anybody else in the orchestra you're in. Some of you are the great sportsmen that have dominated on a rugby pitch because you've got the size and you're fast and you know how to play, and other people don't even have the ability to tackle you at all. That all changes now. However good you are at anything, what will determine your success from this point on is not talent. Talent helps, but it's not talent. It's hard work. So if you want to achieve things at Rowdy, if you want to see those ambitions fulfilled, you'll need to work hard. So 4 words for you. I want you to be curious, I want you to be ambitious, I want you to be responsible, I want you to be young men of endeavour. And if you're concentrating carefully, you'll see the first letter of each of those words spells another one, which is just simply the word care. And that's what I want to leave you with. It's our job, and we take great delight in it, to care for you. That's a partnership between us and the parents to care for you as boys. But it's your job to care as well. There's one thing that I would hope that Radleians never are. It's apathetic. I hope they're always boys who care. So care for yourselves, care for each other, care for the college, care about the college, and of course care about the world in which you live. We are not an isolated bubble. We are preparing you for a real world, and hopefully you'll be young men that can be proud of yourselves, your parents can be proud of you, and we can be proud of you too, as the best of Radleians. We look forward to the next 5 years. I go back to what I said at the start. Welcome, and thank you for choosing Radley.